The next agenda, which is investing in debt. Over the last 2 months, I think debt has become as interesting as equity is. I'm sure many of you know the reasons. Debt has become as complex and as risky in some form. We're all from the industry, so I'm sure you will share my perspective. To talk about debt, we have a very important person. May I request Hiten Shah of Pune to escort Mr. Dhaval Dalal of DSP BlackRock on the dais. Mr. Dhaval is the CIO of debt from BlackRock. He is an MBA from the University of Dallas, and he has worked with various financial services organizations, and he brings to him a total of 14 years of work experience, and he's currently the fund manager for the debt schemes in DSP. Over to you, Mr. Dhaval.
Thank you very much. The previous two panels discussed a lot of numbers, and since I am from the fixed income market, I have to spill some numbers. So just to give you some perspective on the market, the total market capitalization of the equity market worldwide is about $70 trillion. But the bond market, being the silent but the largest, is about $100 trillion. If you have to look at the mutual fund assets worldwide, it's about $34 trillion. But if you compare the mutual fund assets as a percentage of GDP, I think the number of some of the numbers to keep in mind is that in case of Australia, mutual fund to GDP ratio is about 200%. That means mutual fund assets are twice as a percentage of GDP. In case of US and some of the European nations, mutual funds are about 100%. But when it comes to India, we have a 7% ratio. So mutual fund to GDP ratio is 7%. That means we have a long way to go. We are just scratching the surface when it comes to getting mutual funds and the growth of going forward. So I think many of you have a great opportunity to contribute to growth of mutual fund assets in India in the next decade or so. Now, talking about fixed income market, I think, as you know, that the Reserve Bank of India has cut interest rates by about 125 basis points this year. However, the benchmark 10-year yields have only dropped by about 25 basis points. If you look at the apple-to-apple comparison, that means what was the asset benchmark 10-year at the beginning of the year, then you will notice that the yields have only declined by about 10 basis points. Versus 125 basis point decline by the Reserve Bank of India. So a lot of people are asking questions, what is going on in the fixed income market? Why are bond yields not falling as much as one would have assumed they would if there is a 125 basis point decline at the beginning of the year? So my attempt is to give you an understanding about what's going on in the bond market and what to expect in the next 14 minutes. Next slide. So this is a chart of the benchmark 10-year with the repo rate. And what you can see is that there are certain times where the benchmark 10-year has just touched the repo rate and then has bounced back. In the beginning of the year, we have a situation where the repo rate and the 10-year were almost identical. That means the repo rate was serving as a base for the 10-year, and 10-year has not gone below the repo rate. But now what we have is that while the repo rate, which is set by the RBI, has declined, the 10-year yield has not declined so much. And this brings to an interesting topic of what we know is the steepening of the yield curve. So what you can see from these charts is that the white line was the yield curve at the beginning of the year. And some of you are aware that the yield curve is nothing but a graphical representation of bond yields for different tenure. So white line was the yield curve which was inverted. That means short-term yields were higher than the long-term yields. And the red line is the yield curve as of now. So what it tells you what has happened since last 9 months is that the yield curve has shifted lower, but within that, short-term yields have fallen much more than the long-term yield, which is what we call steepening of the yield curve. So long-term yields, 15-year and on, have not fallen as much as what short-term yields have fallen. And it's important to know that the steepening of the yield curve, or what we call the steep yield curve, is very important from the economic perspective, because normally what banks do, banks borrow at the short end and lend money at the long end. If there is no sufficient spread between short-term rates and long-term rates, how will banks make money? In the last 2 to 3 years, we have seen inverted yield curve for a very long time period. And in any economic situation, if banks are expected to borrow at short end at a higher rate and lend money to industry at the long end at a lower rate, it cannot work forever. So now with the steepening of the yield curve, where short-term rates are lower than the long-term rates, we should expect the wheels of economic engine to start moving again. Just to keep in mind that in case of US, where we have seen economic momentum picking up very gradually, the spread between short-term rate and 10-year is almost 200 basis points. While in case of our economy, we have repo rate at 675, and the 10-year has recently moved to about 755. So we have about 80 basis point kind of spread, which I expect it to widen. Now, let us look at how industry has made money, or what kind of return that industry has generated in the last 1 month. And just bear with me, there are a lot of numbers, but what it tells you is that on the vertical axis, we have different asset classes, starting with government bonds, AAA PSU bonds, AAA NBFC, and so forth, going to AA plus and then AA. What comes out very clearly in last month, that is in month of September, is that the government bonds have outperformed credit. And we all know the reason. In last 2 months, credit was in the newspaper for all reasons, right or wrong. So government bonds have outperformed credits in last 1 month. And within that, what is important to note is that the government bonds maturing between 8 years to 10 years have outperformed longer dated bonds. Now this is a very important understanding. Generally, you will always hear is that when the yields are falling, buy the longest bond and you will make more money. This does not hold true all the time. You need to invest, but you need to also position yourself at the right point of the yield curve. And this is what is the message that is coming out through last 1 month return chart. If you look at the same picture on year-to-date basis, which is slightly a 9-month period, what comes out is once again a similar kind of story, but in a different format. So here, you can see that 5 to 8 year government bonds have actually generated return higher than a 30-year government bond. This is something to keep in mind. Once again, when you do an asset allocation for your client, do not try to put money in the longest asset class, because at different point of time, different asset class do generate different kind of return. Now, within the corporate bond, whether AAA, AA plus or AA, what comes out very clearly is that AAA rated bonds have outperformed relatively lower credit bonds. Now, this could be because of the various reasons, whether the FII buying or non-FII buying, but the fact of the matter is that lower credit quality bonds have actually underperformed high credit quality bond. And this is a message that I want to convey to you through numbers, that generally speaking, when mutual fund advisors give you an asset to sell, I think it's important to look into the numbers on a granular basis to find out which asset class is likely to do better and why. Now, looking at the international market, I think it is very important as an IFA to pay attention to what's happening in global markets. Because right now, our experience suggests that anything that happens in global markets has higher implication on Indian market, and whatever trends that we are observing in global markets is going to get followed in India at some point of time. So most important trend that we are watching is that the commodity cycle has turned. And as a result of which, you can see that the Bloomberg Commodity Index is at 10-year low. India being the net importer of commodities is benefiting, but at the same time, some of the corporate entities who have higher exposure to commodity have seen massive erosion in the strength of their balance sheet, which is getting reflected in lower credit quality and lower credit rating of those companies. The second important trend that we are witnessing, and this is a very long-term trend, is that the US dollar is strengthening. Now, this trend has started since 2012. That's when the Federal Reserve stopped the quantitative easing and the supply of dollar to the market actually stopped. But according to us, strengthening of the US dollar has the single largest potential to change the way we look at the markets. Why? Because when the dollar strengthens, and it's a multi-year cycle, it's not a one-year cycle. When the dollar starts strengthening, it has a negative impact on commodity prices, that is, commodity comes down and dollar goes up. But at the same time, some of the commodity complex currencies have seen massive erosion in the value. So you can see on the right slide, I don't know whether you can focus on the numbers, but Brazilian real is down 30% year to date. And Turkish lira, Australian dollar, you name it, a country which is producing commodity has seen their currencies tumbling against the dollar. And my sense is that if the dollar continues to gain strength, which I think looking at the economic scenario, it will continue, we should see further erosion of the currencies. As a result of which, what we are noticing is that there are outflows starting from the emerging market back to the US market. So to understand this, 2008 onwards, when the Federal Reserve kept the overnight rates almost close to zero, there's a lot of money that came out of the developed countries into emerging market countries in search of higher yield. Now some of that money has started returning back for two reasons. Number one is dollar is strengthening. And second thing is that the market participants believe that in a strengthening dollar situation and the weakening of the emerging market currencies, investors will be better off putting money in dollar-based assets. So as a result of which, this is something very important to keep in mind, that the large pool of money that came in Asia for so-called carry trade, some of the money is reversing. Month after month, we are seeing outflows. And when the outflows happen or the buying stops, what happens is that the different asset classes generate different kind of returns in the global markets. And here, there are four arrows, which is telling you that the high yield asset class in global markets has started generating negative returns. That means spread or the yield of high yielding assets have started increasing, even though US has not even started hiking rates. To give you some graphical information, these are 4 widely used high yield indices in the world. And you can see that since May of 2015, some of the indices have seen 200 basis point hardening in the yields. Now this trend, it may not make any sense to you right now, but what is important from our perspective is that globally, market participants are seeing that some of the risky assets in fixed income have started underperforming. And high quality assets such as US Treasury or any other government bonds have started doing better than the corporate bond. Now, how do we tie up everything in our market? So you can see here what we have shown is very interesting chart. These are different asset classes within the fixed income: liquid fund, liquid plus, ultra short, short term, banking, PSU, credit, and so forth. We have shown 2 types of returns. One is the year to date up to September 30th, and the other is 1 year return. That means 30th September 2014 to 30th September 2015. And what you can see is that at the short end of the curve, there is a very little dispersion between year to date return, annualized, and 1 year return, annualized. While if you go on duration side, that is gilt fund, dynamic bond fund, there is a big dispersion between year to date return and 1 year return. Some of the panel members did mention correctly that dynamic bond funds and gilt funds have given 13, 14, 15% kind of return. That's over 1 year period. But in the last 1 year, that is year to date, when the RBI has cut 125 basis point, actually the long duration and funds like dynamic bond fund and gilt fund have underperformed liquid and short-term fund. And so on a risk-adjusted basis, it's fair to say that liquid plus, short-term and banking and PSU funds have actually done much better for the investor without bringing too much of undue volatility. So what we are trying to say is that after this 50 basis point rate cut, the RBI is unlikely to cut rates till March. We need to focus much more on global flows and strength of the dollar. We believe that strength of the dollar will continue to result in outflows from the emerging market, and that will put pressure on currencies. And from the local markets perspective, we need to focus on 5 to 10 year segment. I think it's better to keep investors' money at the short end or up to 5 to 10 year assets, or the funds with average maturity between 2 years to 7 years, rather than putting money on the long end of the curve. I think investors will be better served and they will have a great experience investing through IFA. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Dawal. This is the first presentation of debt in this session. Thank you so much for an enlightening session. Can I request Mr. Balasubramaniam from Madurai to please come up and hand over a memento to Mr. Dawal. Please come up to the center, sir. Thank you, sir.